Welcome back to lab. Today we're going to talk about the density lab and take a look at some of the equipment and procedures that you'll be doing for this lab. This lab, there's a lot going on. There's really two parts to the lab, the density of solids and the density of liquids. And the process is essentially the same whenever you're determining density. You need to determine the mass of the sample and then the volume of the sample, and then you divide mass divided by volume, and that's your density. Part one of this lab involves the density of solids. The solids that we're using again are copper cylinder, an aluminum cylinder, and an irregularly shaped piece of unknown metal. The process is find the mass using the triple beam balance. You know how to do that. Put the cylinder on the balance, move the sliders until it balances, read carefully, making sure that you do that last digit estimation, and record your mass. You'll do the mass of all three pieces of metal. The volume, you're already used to doing it. You're going to do it by water displacement. You're going to take a little bit of water in here. You're going to carefully slide, you'll measure the volume, carefully slide the cylinder down. The water will rise a little bit, measure the volume again. The difference between those volumes, that's your volume. Make sure that you are very, very careful with the uncertainty of this particular instrument and that you have the right number of decimal places. Now, you've used the graduated cylinder before, so that shouldn't be an issue. The second part of this lab is the density of liquids. And although the idea is the same, you want the mass of the liquid and the volume of the liquid, you can't very well pour a liquid on a balance. It'll go everywhere. And so we need a slightly different approach to measuring the volume of the liquid, the mass of the liquid. So the liquids we'll be using are water, just out of the sink, isopropyl alcohol, this is just rubbing alcohol, and this tasty green liquid, which is called ethylene glycol. Now, the green color is actually from some other impurities that are in here, but mostly it's ethylene glycol. You need to be particularly careful when dealing with this particular liquid. When the cork comes out of this bottle, you need to make sure that your goggles are on, and you need to be very careful about getting this on you. If you do get it on your skin, wash it off. And as tasty as this might look, don't drink it. Bad for you. So the process for determining the density of a liquid is similar, but with one important difference. We can measure the volume of a liquid directly, but the mass of the liquid has to be done in a particular way. And so I'm going to show you how to do the mass of the liquid right now. Start with your safety goggles, of course. The first thing you want to do is you want to get the mass of the empty graduated cylinder. So you'll put that on the balance, and you'll move the sliders in such a way that you can get the mass of the empty graduated cylinder. So for the sake of our trial here, it looks like it's going to be a little over 20 grams. Write that down in your lab notebook, the mass of the empty graduated cylinder. Make sure this is clean and dry before you go ahead and do this. So if you need to dry it out, that's fine. So now you have the mass of this thing empty. So the next thing is you're going to pour a certain amount of the liquid into this graduated cylinder. And it doesn't matter how much you pour in. You just have to know the volume of it. That's your volume for your density. And when you pour a little bit in, again, it doesn't matter how much. You'll measure the volume. Remember to put this down on a flat surface so you can read the meniscus. Remember to use the uncertainty. Then you'll put it back on the balance, and you'll measure it again. So you had the mass of the empty cylinder. Now you have the mass of the cylinder with the liquid in it. Take the difference between those two, and that's the mass of just the liquid by itself. The volume's right there. So your mass divided by your volume again. That's your density. So that's all there really is to it. 3 solids, 3 liquids. Take your time. Make good measurements. If you're not sure, go back and make new ones. Check it out. And then we'll talk about how to process all that data next week. Okay? We'll see you in lab.